Welcome to Coffee Break with K.A. and Dana. We're brought to you by the Lesbian Talk Show. I'm K.A., a lesbian romance author, and in my past life, a counselor and a social worker.
And I'm Dana, an avid reader, coffee connoisseur, recovering alcoholic, and a graduate of the School of Hard Knocks.
Grab a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and join us for a meaningful conversation from a lesbian perspective. Divorce, unemployment, terrorism, corrupt politicians. There's plenty of anxiety around for everyone these days. And very often the source is something we can't change. How do you know when it's time to get help dealing with your anxieties? In this episode, Kay and Dana will discuss anxiety, what's normal and what's not, what are the symptoms, and if you have them, how can you take control and feel better? Won't you join us for a meaningful conversation? And one more thing before we begin. This podcast is not meant to be a substitute for therapy. If you need help, seek out the services of a licensed professional. We are discussing anxiety today, a common disorder, a disorder that can be next to nothing or debilitating.
Or a combination of both.
Or a combination of both. Next to nothing and debilitating at the same moment.
Well, not at the same moment, but within the same few moments. I mean, you can go from being anxious about something to being in fight or flight and staying there for a bit and then going back to the other.
Yeah, swinging between the extremes. So anxiety from those two extremes, what we can say is some of it's pretty normal. Like you're a little anxious before you go to a dentist, or I don't know, you got a job interview coming up and you're a little anxious, or whatever. Things happen, and then you get better and you survive whatever it was that you were worried about. Usually it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Except the dentist.
Except the dentist, which could actually be far worse than you ever dreamed.
Absolutely.
And then there's that other end of the continuum. That's my word. So there's that other end of the continuum where it's harmful. I mean, it's normal as heck. Normal to have it. But when it gets to that end, it takes its toll on your body.
And I don't know that the word normal is maybe not the right word. What's normal for me in fight or flight is not what's normal to you.
Oh, good point. Normal's different for different people. Yeah. So let's return that to the point where normal. So when I use normal, I'm thinking about anxiety that's just everyday anxiety, something common. More common activities that make people anxious, make more people anxious than not. You know, the dentist would have been one of them. We can name
Speaking in public.
Public. I mean, you can name them. Those things that just thinking about having to do it, writing it on your calendar, gives your stomach a little somersault. Everyday anxiety.
Right.
And then that other kind that goes on and on and on and takes its toll.
The debilitating kind.
The debilitating kind.
I speak of it as in, everybody has fight or flight mechanisms, but mine are stuck in fight.
All the time? All the time?
A lot of the time. I'm not going to say all of the time, but a lot of the time. And I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall. Because, I just know something's going to happen that's going to ratchet it right back up.
Okay, so let's run through the symptoms of anxiety. So if that's the case, then my guess is some of these symptoms might be fairly common occurrences, like daily or weekly headaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Upset stomach
aches.
Stomach aches, upset stomach, nausea.
Yes.
Like nausea or just hurt?
I would say nausea because it comes in waves.
Okay. Sleeping issues?
Every night.
How about eating issues? Like can't eat or binge eat. I think it can go either way.
And I go either way depending on what it is that's going on. I cannot eat or I can eat everything in sight.
Okay, let's move farther along the continuum. How about a pounding heart to the point like, I don't know, you can't catch your breath, you feel lightheaded, whatever.
I have learned to train my breath, and it's sometimes when I get really agitated or aggravated or activated, I don't breathe real hard. I slow my breath down to where you can't hardly hear it.
So you've learned that coping skill.
Yes.
Okay.
So I get the fast beating heart, but I don't get the breath rate that comes with it.
So when your heart's involved like that and lightheadedness and kind of what we're describing, you're way over on the continuum more towards panic attack.
Yes.
So even for folks that have extreme anxiety that's taken a toll on their body, they're not always in a panic attack.
No. But they're always ready for one to come.
That fight or flight, ready to go.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Well, and if I had panic attacks sneak up on me out of nowhere, I think I'd be kind of looking around the corner waiting for them too. I mean, they're not pleasant things.
No. But I've had to learn coping mechanisms for that.
Okay, so you talked about breathing. I mean, can you give the listeners more in
yes.
terms of the steps you might go through to control your breathing and settle yourself down?
So if I get activated and I'm out in public or even at home, the first thing I do is I hold on to something firm, like a desk, a wall, a table, or something, just something to help me ground. I breathe in to the count of 3, I hold it to the count of 4, and I exhale to the count of 5. And I only have to do that maybe 3 or 4 times until I'm able to bring myself back into my body and realize that right here, right now, I'm safe. It was just a panic attack, and it's right here, I am safe.
Okay. Your breathing is all about taking control of your thoughts, convincing yourself that you're safe, and taking control of your breathing so that, because in an anxiety attack, your body's out of control in a sense. It's
right.
Doing its own thing, making you miserable. So you take control through breathing.
Take control of my breathing. And then it slows my mind down just enough that I can see that right here, right now, I'm safe. Right here, right now, there's nothing that's going to harm me.
Okay.
So, right here, right now, I'm okay.
So what's going through your head? That leads up to one of those. Is it fear of something happening, or just worry? Just like a worry machine that just cranks out of control.
Well, probably a lot of worry, but a lot of things will activate me, like smells. If I walk in the grocery store and some old man's got on Old Spice, I just leave because I know that's a trigger for me. So I have to be aware. Smells, sights, and sounds are, I'm always on the defensive with those.
Okay, and so we'll just toss in, panic attacks are often triggered by just what you said, and sometimes, just what you said. And people who've been through some kind of trauma, which would include, witnessing the death of someone you love, sexual abuse, all kinds of trauma, can sometimes be triggered by those little things that were
Right.
present at the time. So, I don't know. In one of my books, in fact, the book we're going to recommend, watching a train accident, and the things that went with that. Those sounds and sights could trigger a panic attack. So it's kind of like that.
Well, and I think when you have that trauma at that moment, your body memorizes what's going on. The sight, the smell, the feelings, the emotions, and it just holds all of that in. And when that panic attack starts, it just taps right into that and it takes you right back there.
Well, and that's a self-protective mechanism. Comes back, it comes to you compliments of your ancestors from long, long ago who had to be anxious, in the wild or wherever they lived because they might get eaten by a bear or something. So if something bad might happen, they needed to know what that sounded like and smelled like and whatever. And the same is true for those kind of situations. Something horrible happens and the body has a natural response to protect itself. So when that little something comes along, wham, you're thrown into the heat of the battle and you're ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
Physically, you're ready to go. Fight or flight. That's what that's all about. So coping with anxiety is all about reining that in.
Well, it's also recognizing false alarms. And, sometimes I'll be activated for no reason at all, and I have to go back to my breathing, and I have to remember that while my mind remembers things that I don't physically remember yet, my mind is also very creative. And it can create a situation that's worse than what I went through in my own head. So I have to remember that, right here, right now, right here, right now. Where am I? What am I doing? And what am I fearful for right now?
Yeah, and so basically that's changing thoughts is what that is. That's kind of reframing your thoughts from negative, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, or whatever, to more positive. No, you're not going to die. This is what's really going on. So how about with worries? How about worries? Because we've talked about it before, but you're active in AA. And if I remember correctly, there's something you guys say about accepting and changing. Rattle it off. I'll bet you can.
It's the Serenity Prayer. And now that you've put me on the spot, I don't know if I can. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's that wisdom part that I don't get. I mean, I haven't been doing it long enough. I haven't learned to do the wisdom part, but I do get glimpses of it. I mean, sometimes I'll say something and it's like, wow, that was pretty powerful. Where'd that come from? And I think that's, as I keep my spiritual practice going and my daily practice for my anxiety, as long as I keep that routine, those things come to me quicker.
Well, from my personal experience, and I'm not to the wise part either, I think it comes with age. And about the time you get all the way there, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. But for me, I have a daily routine, and I have learned to be flexible with my intentions and my expectations. And I think that's part of the wisdom for me is, in the morning, I visualize how my day is going to go. And I used to get all wrapped up if somebody changed it. But now I can be flexible. If something happens, I can move things around. And that's only come in the last year or so.
Well, that's really good. In fact, our recording sessions, I do that to you now and then. So you just roll with the punches and we record whenever it's time. See, growth.
Well, and that is growth for me, because you and your wife have laughed at me about my routines in the morning and at night. And I used to think I had to have that structure, but now I'm starting to realize that the structure isn't in the routine. The structure is in the discipline before the routine.
Yeah, that's true. But structure is not all bad. Structure, if it cripples you, it's kind of bad. But
yeah, I had no flexibility.
But
you know that.
But structure can be comforting. There can be some comfort in your world being predictable. So
whose world is predictable?
Well, you can control some things to make them a little more predictable. So we circle back to the symptoms. You do what you can, but if still you can't sleep, and you're eating too much, or you're not eating at all, or you're throwing up what you do eat, or you're having headaches, or you're having flashbacks, or all kinds of things that go with anxiety.
And if you're to that point, truly the best thing you can do is find a good therapist that you can talk to, because you're so far into the fight that you don't understand that there's a flight aspect to it also. And that's what therapy's done for me, is it's helped me realize, okay, I could fight or I don't have to.
And finding a good therapist, a good licensed therapist who understands anxiety, you're right, that can make a world of difference. And even with that, sometimes you need to seek out your medical practitioner as well, because there are some medications available. They should be a last resort. But they're between therapy and medication, even someone that suffers from extreme anxiety can feel better. They can.
I'm living proof of that. But it takes your therapist and your personal physician working together to kind of make all the pieces fit, which makes life bearable. But then I also have my own routine that I do in the mornings, and that help me control myself during the day.
Yeah.
How I react to things.
And that's probably, we talked about different people experiencing anxiety differently, and what's normal for one might not be normal for other. But the same would be with those kind of routines. Each person's unique, and they have to find, sometimes with the help of a therapist, those things that work, and then do them.
And then fine-tune them and do them, yes. I mean, when I get up in the mornings, I pray and meditate. I do some stretching, because that helps my back feel better. I set my intention for the day. Is it going to be a busy day, or am I going to have just kind of a relaxed day and that I can kind of go with the flow? They have told me that I need to drink tea in the morning or warm water with lemon. That helps activate the stuff in my body. I'm a caffeine junkie, first to admit it. I don't do that. But the thing that I think helps me with my anxiety is I sit down sometime during the day and I write out a gratitude list. And I don't just do the 1 through 10, that people can do without really thinking about it. I take 1 or 2 things from my list of 10 and I really write how and why I'm grateful for them and expand on that. And that has helped me immensely.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might help on multiple levels. Another level that it probably helps is it occupies your brain on something positive. I mean, all of a sudden,
exactly,
all of a sudden you're thinking about something good in your life or in the world or in your relationship or whatever, and it's difficult for whatever you're worried about or anxious about to have enough brain space to take control.
I find when I do my meditations that sometimes I'm not really into the meditation part of it, and my mind is going all different directions. But I find with my gratitude list, I can stay in that longer and have more focus.
So it's been another good discussion, and I hope we've helped some of our listeners, but we've really just barely scratched the surface on this. There are books available. There are therapists and pastors and whatever who can sometimes help you get through the struggles in life. But we have at least scratched the surface.
We've opened the book. Now we get to look into it more.
Absolutely. So I look forward to next week's discussion, and we'll call this an episode.
And as we bring this episode to a close, I'd like to talk about our 2 movies and our book. So the movies that I chose were Bed of Roses with Christian Slater and Mary Beth Masterson, and Changeover. Now, Changeover is one I just saw the other day, and it's very fascinating. And for our book, we're going to recommend Whispers of the Heart by K.A.
You've been listening to Coffee Break with K.A. and Dana, meaningful conversations from a lesbian perspective, brought to you by the Lesbian Talk Show. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and visit our website, www.coffeebreakwithkaanddana.com. Until next week, work hard, be kind to one another, and watch amazing things happen in your corner of the world.